Hello and welcome to another tutorial update. Today we talk about grid bots, how you can actually set up a grid bot. We're using Bybit as an example. Various exchanges offer grid bots these days. The advantage of using a grid bot on an exchange is that you do not need to connect an external service to the exchange. Because there are some external providers. They might be better, some of them, some might not. I have never seen data that would suggest they are, because in my opinion they all work in very similar ways. So you don't need to pay money necessarily. So you can just use the grid bot on an exchange. So we want to talk about how you can actually set it up and what a grid bot does and how you can actually use Elliott Waves to trade or to set up a grid bot range and how I normally do it. So first of all, how does a grid bot work? So let's just first of all find it here on Bybit. You click on, or you hover over, where is it? Trade, and then trading bot. So it's apparently still fairly new. I think it's not that new. I think they started already like more than a half a year ago. And then you've got various grid bots to select. We want to start with the spot grid bot. That's, I believe, what most people actually use. As you can see here, they are the most active one, 24,536. Whereas you have here a DCA bot. Not too many people use that. That's just for general dollar cost averaging, for example. As you can see here, invest on autopilot regardless of market conditions. So it's quite simple. You just, I believe, select when you want to buy, and you just dollar cost average in. It's like a bit of like a plan where you buy every month or so. And then you've got a futures grid bot as well. If you want to trade with leverage. Now, I personally wouldn't do that with a grid bot. I think it works good as it is. I have also so far only used spot grid bots, and that's where you find it. So we talk about the spot grid bot in this example here. Let's take a look at what it does. I'm going to show you an example here and also how to use the Elliott Waves with a grid bot. I've got an example here. I've got the Rune chart, Rune Thor chain. So what does a grid bot do? So a grid bot would, I'm just going to show you an example here. You need to give the grid bot a range. I mean, it can select a range automatically, but I prefer to give it a range. Why does it need a range? So first of all, let's just say we've got here identified a bit of a range in which I believe the chart will run. Yeah, so let's say between $1 and $1.80 pretty much. That's the range I give the grid bot. Where would I do that? Let's just take a look. Grid bot, create now. So here you have two options to select. You can select the AI strategy or the manual strategy. If you select AI, then it will develop that range or identify that range for itself based on the data it already has. What I like to do is to select manual. And they unfortunately don't have Rune on here on the on Bybit, but let's just pretend we've got Rune here. And I would give it a range. So I would have to select the range based on the range I identified. And I give you an example in a minute why I select that range. So it's between $1 and $1.83. So I would type that in here. 1 USDT and 180. Just leave it like that. Okay, so what I then have to select the number of grids. What is a grid? So go back to the Rune chart. We have here obviously quite a bit of a range. A grid means you give it a certain number of levels. So for example, if I say, I believe the maximum I can select here is 148. Let's just say 100. It would then put 100 grids into this range, which means basically it has 100 levels where it will buy and sell. The idea is that you've got these grids and it will at some point, for example, let's say it comes down here. I activate my grid bot, it goes up a bit. Then let's say, depending on how many grid bots I have, the different buy orders are more closely together or far away from each other. Let's say I've got 100 grids, and let's say I've got a limit here, and it will buy here. Yeah. And then above that, there might be a level where it will sell. Okay, so it will do that. It will buy here, it will sell here. So for clarification, I will now make that green. That's normally how it works. It would move up. will have hit a buy order here. If it goes up further, at some point it will realize that profit. And then when it comes down a bit, it will add another buy order. Okay, so it will buy again and then sell when it goes a bit higher. So it basically has all these levels distributed between that range, and depending on how many grids you have, the more you have, the closer these levels are together, which means, for example, if the price just does this, and I have only, let's say, 20 grids, it might not do anything, because I might have a buy order here, it might have a sell order here, and it's just moving in between. So don't, have a decent number of grids in there. I would always go quite high, to be honest. And it gives you a maximum of 148 in this range anyway, so you can't go higher anyway. So I would experiment a little bit with what's best for you. I mean, you can do the AI strategy as well. I don't like to do that because I like to use the Elliott Waves to select everything. See, now I deleted it actually. So make sure you don't hover back and forth. Let's just say 100. And I have to select obviously my investment here as well. So let's say, I don't know, you type in whatever you want to use. I've got 1000 USDT roughly on the account here. So I can just select, let's say 500. When you've never used a grid bot before and you don't know really how it works and you want to experiment a little bit with it, I would just try it with a very, very low amount. Yeah, just to see how it goes, and then you can refine your settings, for example. And then you have an advanced setting here as well, very, very useful. So definitely use a stop loss and take profit. Why is that important? Let's go back to Rune. It's important because if it moves out of this range, the bot isn't going to do anything anymore. So you're obviously defining the range for it, and outside of the range, it's not going to do much, or it's not going to do anything. So it's only going to operate in this range, which means a grid bot as well. It's not entirely passive. It needs regular maintenance as well. Maybe, every few days you check in and have a look if the bot is still in the range. Because if it moves up here, it's not going to do anything. That's the problem. If suddenly the chart spikes, okay, you might lose out on all those profits. Let's say it does this and you haven't moved the range up because you're not observing the chart. Then you're going to move, you're losing out on all of this. If you have the range up here, then you will profit from that. But if it stops here because it's making a volatile move, you're not going to profit from it. So please keep that in mind as well. So you should regularly check your range. But that's why technical analysis is so important here, because it gives you the range. It tells you what to do and it tells you where to set the stop loss. So how to use it with Elliott Waves? Very important. For example, I've got here defined or identified a possible leading diagonal. It could be any coin, yeah? I like to set grid bots up when I have a 1-2 setup. So what does that mean? It means I've identified here 5 waves. That could be a wave 1. We now have evidence that the wave 1 is complete, is coming down here, right? So that means I can set the range, or I can identify, how far would the wave 2 normally come down to? Normally into the region between the 78.6 and the 50% retracement. So that means below 113, 112, it will probably not do much anymore. And below that 112 level, the scenario is invalidated. Because if it drops below that, it will typically not work out anymore as a bullish move. Because afterwards, I would expect the wave 3 to the upside. So that means I will probably not start the range at $1. I will probably start the range somewhere below the box. And I would set a stop loss as well, just below the box. Which means I could now set the grid bot up for this particular range, starting at 110 all the way to 183 with a stop loss at around 110. Take profit could be at the top of the range, or I just leave the take profit out and we'll just move the range up. Because let's be honest, if a wave 3 starts afterwards, it will be a massive rally. So the strategy here would be to set the bot up that it will in this range accumulate, because such a wave 2 can take time. Because a wave 2 is not, one straight line. A wave 2 is an ABC, so you can get something like that. So instead of trading this manually, let the grid bot do it. And, this wave A has again subwaves, the wave B has subwaves, it can extend, the wave B sometimes has a triangle, then the wave C comes down, and then you will profit in the rally. You just need to make sure when you know, or when you see that the wave C is in, move up your range. Yeah, move up the range all the way up to at least, depending on how low it comes, yeah, let's say it comes down to 110, you would need to increase it to at least 297, because that is the 1.618 extension, the minimum requirement for a wave 3, so it would go at least to that level, maybe even move it higher. And that's how to use a grid bot with Elliott Wave. Whenever I see a 1-2 setup, I always think, is it worth setting up a grid bot? And it will trade every little back and forth here for you. And it's basically, if you have it set correctly, it can be a money printer, because you can really trade all the waves here. And it will do that for you while sleeping. So you can't trade, obviously, while you sleep, but the grid bot can. So it's pretty cool. Obviously, you need some USDT on your account to make it work. And you also need some, in this case, Rune, but obviously they don't have Rune. So you need some of these two on your account to make it actually work, because it needs to start with something. Make sure you set your stop loss, not necessarily take profit. Entry price, if you want to plan an entry price, but you could just set it up and see how it goes if you have a setup identified like that. And then it should do its work, right? Or you just go with the AI strategy, which means here that it will define the range for itself. Maybe that's even worth, if you're just beginning and want to see how it works, you could also just create that. It also sets the number of grids for you, and you can just select the pair that you want. Typically with a grid bot, if a coin is volatile, you could get more out of it. Make sure that you don't choose a coin that isn't moving at all. You need a certain volatility. The grid bot needs a certain volatility. Now, generally in the crypto market, that's why they work quite well in crypto, because crypto is quite volatile, but also here we've got coins that are not moving much. We've got coins that are a bit more volatile. But yeah, if you know what you're doing and also want to trade the Elliott Waves, you can use here the grid bot and set the manual settings. So that's how you set up a grid bot, and you just click on create now. I don't want to do it now, but then it will be running. It will be buying and selling all the time. So you might need, depending on your country, you might need some kind of a tax software possibly that will in the end process it all for you, because every buy and sell is a taxable event. Now, not all countries tax cryptocurrencies, so that might be different for some of you, but if you have a tax software, it will do it all for you anyway. And if you're deep into crypto, you will probably need a tax software anyway. And what else do we have here? Nothing. I think that's sort of how it works, what it is. Again, it can be a money printer if you set it up correctly. And that's how it is. So hope you enjoyed the Bybit tutorial. If you want to support the channel, if you don't have a Bybit account, if you want to create one and you want to sign up with Bybit anyway, you can use our affiliate link in the description. It would help the channel out immensely. And other than that, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.